Hey, so I'm back with my recap of Kindred Season 1, Episode 4, The Waiter from 2 nights ago. So this episode is going to give some idea of how time is working as they jump back and forth. So it opens with the neighbor. Clearly see she has a clear view of Dana's home foyer or whatever, and this is obviously when Kevin was trying to get her out of the house, but it was too late. She was already in the process of being pulled back, and so it kind of looked like they were tussling. And so she ends up calling her husband over to the window to see, but by the time he got there, they were already gone. So, of course, they decide to go and check and see what in the world was going on over there. And from the time they left their house and got to the front door, and they opened the front door, Dana and Kevin were laying in the floor and they were half naked. So they just ended up closing the door because it looked like they were just getting it in. And they went on back to the house, but that gives you some idea. Like, obviously, they were in the past for a couple of days, but for them, their current time, it only been like a few minutes. So, Kevin ends up taking Dana to the kitchen to give her some water because she was under the impression that she was had been poisoned, right? So, we figure out that Olivia figured out that it's fear, not just fear, like you have to actually believe that you are about to die. That kind of fear in order for her to jump. And so that's how they were able to get back. And so Kevin was like, well, at least, he was happy that she was able to figure it out. And so now you don't have to wait for Rufus to make the, decision to send you back or whatever, the case may be. And so Dana was like, well, no, I don't want to have to go through that. I don't want to have to get shot or be poisoned in order to evoke the kind of emotions I would need to do in order to jump. That could eventually kill me. So she doesn't want to do that anymore.
Actually, trying to send me home could kill me.
And then she realized, she was like, wait a minute, why are we naked? Which, of course, because they were fully clothed when they jumped. So apparently, because I don't think I can think of, was because the clothes they were wearing were from that time. Obviously, it wouldn't have survived 200 years.
Where are our clothes?
So it got lost somewhere, and we still don't know what happened to the overseer. So I don't know, maybe the clothes is with the overseer. I don't know. So Denise, she is feeling some kind of way after the conversation she had with Dana, and she called her husband Alan, and she wanted him to go and check on Dana. So back at Dana's house, Dana and Kevin, they're kind of relaxing there in bed, and they're kind of going back and forth about how this is all going to work. And she feels like this anxiety because she feels like at any moment it can happen at any time. And so he's actually scrolling through photos because he had his phone with him, so he took photos of the house. And he was like, do you think that other people are experiencing the same thing? And of course she said that could, those photos could be of anywhere.
Is this happening all the time to people all over the world?
So they're sitting there and he get a notification. Apparently he had ordered food just before they jumped, and he had just getting the notification that it was the delivery was outside.
Thai food I ordered like 3 days ago.
And so they're like, wait a minute. He said, this is the food that I ordered 3 days ago. And that's when they realized it's the same day. So when they went back, they had been there a couple of days, but for them in the present time, it had been like a couple of minutes or an hour or so.
It's the same night.
So as he went out to get the food, of course the neighbor is watching, and he's in his robe, and she was like, oh, I think they're done now.
They're done.
Oh, Hermione.
And so of course her husband was like, yeah, they're done. We're done too. Like, just leave them alone, right? So they decide that they should prepare themselves just in case, when it happens again. So they decide to go and get some supplies, but they stop at Kevin's house, and Kevin lives with his sister. And so he went to the house. He needed to get a change of clothes, and he also a gun. So he did get a gun for protection. And eventually his sister came in and she saw Dana's black eye, so she looked kind of concerned, like, okay, so what happened? And so he came out, and her interaction with him was kind of weird. She was like, well, is there anything that, basically is going on? You're like basically asking, like, you're not getting into trouble, are you?
Are you getting yourself into any trouble?
And he felt some kind of way, and they kind of ended on bad terms. So of course Dana questioned, like, what was that about? It was kind of weird. He was like, oh, she's just, over dramatic or, whatever. Now, keep in mind, he's been on this community app where Dana's neighbor has been posting like how weird things have been going on at the house. So they decide to go to the store and they end up getting some supplies. So they pull up to the house, and the neighbor, she walks up and says, "What are you talking? Why would you put that on the community app?" Basically saying that she's a member of the KKK.
Did you actually imply on the freaking neighborhood app that I was a member of the Ku Klux Klan?
And then, he was basically saying he wanted her to leave them alone. And then she go over to Dana and saw her black eye, and it's like, "Are you okay? Are you being abused?"
There's all of this screaming and this wild, are you being harmed?
And so she basically was saying no. They all but told her to just go away. And so he got so upset, he just basically told her to F off, right? So they end up going to the house, and this is when he ends up telling her that he's been having these communications on this community app that she knows nothing about, and so she's pissed. And so she's like, "You got to tell me, you know what's going on. We have to communicate with each other." And he basically told her that he wasn't going back with her. Like, it's not good for him. He clearly looks like he's at the knife's edge, and he just can't do it.
I'm not going back with you.
So the next thing you know, he hear the neighbor's husband screaming because he had just told his wife to F off. So of course he feels some kind of way. So he pulled, because at this point he already took the gun out to show Dana the gun. Like, he's not gonna go back with her, but he gave her the gun for protection. So this is how we go back to episode 1, where the gun ends up in the refrigerator.
Your gun!
So he put the gun in the refrigerator, don't know why, and he ends up going outside. So him and the man end up tussling. Alan shows up, breaks the fight up. He's like questioning him, like, "Wait a minute, don't I know you?" And he was like, "Yeah, I was the waiter that waited on you guys," and da-da-da. And so Alan gets in the house and he calls Denise and puts her on speakerphone. And she basically says that, she's worried about her, that, the conversation they had was kind of, unnerving, and, she wanted her to come in so they could talk and she could ask all the questions that she wants to ask.
I get the sense maybe something is happening to you that I might have some context for.
And so Kevin ends up staying at the house, and she ends up riding to the hospital with her uncle. And so Alan's basically saying that, "I know that you feel like you were abandoned and that I kept your aunt from you." And he all but said he did. And, he all but said, he said, yeah, because it wasn't good for her. Her and her mother did not have the best relationship. And, her father was clearly the favorite. And she always felt like she was trying to get her mother's approval, and it just never happened, and it just wasn't good. It wasn't healthy for her.
When I met Denise, we made a deal with each other to keep our drama to a minimum. When I moved her to California, it saved her.
And he said, when I brought her to California, I basically wanted to remove her from that situation. And so, yes, I did in some way kind of prevent her from going back and, dealing with that, because it was just a bunch of drama, and it just wasn't, mentally, it wasn't healthy for her. But he did say, "I do apologize that you fell through the cracks."
My only regret is that you fell through the cracks.
So they get to the hospital, and Kevin, while he's at the house, he realized that they still have the ring. And so, of course, he's en route to go to the hospital, I guess to show Denise the ring, or, to have some proof. Because how else would they get that ring? So they get to the hospital, and Dana and her aunt are sitting down talking, and she's asked, like, why were you asking these questions? And she started asking about her mother's mother, who also had some mental issues.
She was a troubled woman.
She found out that her mother was also abandoned. I'm going to say it in quotation because we don't know right now what happened to her grandmother on her mother's side. But Olivia was also abandoned.
Olivia's mother up and left when she was just a baby.
And then, she went on to tell her that her mother is not dead, that she saw her, that she time jumped. And, of course, now she thinks that Dana's crazy.
She disappeared, and she got pulled back in time. And
at this point, Dana left, and she runs into Kevin. And Kevin basically apologizes for, kind of abandoning her, because he doesn't want to go back. And while they're talking, there's a call on the PA, basically calling for Dana. Her aunt is basically about to have her committed. So they run into the storage room, lock themselves in, and I guess based on, under the strain and stress of that, she ends up time jumping. So when they open the door, they're gone.
Dana, Dana?
Hurt yourself, Dana!
And so now she's confused. Like, I know they were in there, so what happened to them? And that's how this episode ends.